Dae-ho Kim pushed his cleaning cart down the long metal hallway of Nexus Prime Station. The wheels squeaked with each turn, a sound he had grown used to after 3 years of working here. His mop bucket sloshed with dirty water as he moved from room to room, cleaning up after aliens who barely looked at him. The station was huge. It stretched for miles in every direction, home to thousands of different alien species. Scientists, soldiers, and traders from across the galaxy worked here, but humans like Dae-ho, they cleaned toilets and emptied trash cans. Another day in paradise, he said to himself, stopping at the waste disposal entrance. This was the worst part of his job. The smell hit him like a wall as he opened the heavy door. But someone had to do it, and humans always got the jobs nobody else wanted. Dae-ho pulled on his thick gloves and grabbed his tools. The disposal system went deep into the station, through pipes and chambers that most people never saw. He had been down here many times before. The aliens who designed this place never came to check on it. They just expected it to work. As he climbed down the metal ladder, his flashlight cut through the darkness. Water dripped from somewhere above. The air was thick and warm. Dae-ho started his usual routine, checking pipes and clearing blockages. It was boring work, but he was good at it. That's when he saw something strange. In the corner of a waste chamber, something glowed with a soft blue light. Dae-ho had been down here hundreds of times and never seen anything like it. He moved closer, his boots splashing in the shallow water. It was a piece of metal about the size of his hand. But it wasn't like any metal he knew. It seemed to shift and move in the light, covered in symbols that hurt his eyes to look at directly. The thing was stuck in a crack in the wall, like it had been there for a very long time. Dae-ho looked around. Nobody else was down here. Nobody ever came down here, except him. He carefully pulled the object free and wrapped it in a cleaning cloth. His hands tingled when he touched it, even through his gloves. "What are you?" he whispered. He finished his work quickly and headed back up. His mind raced with questions. Where did this thing come from? How long had it been down there? And why? Did it feel so important? Dae-ho found Mira Park in the maintenance section. She was fixing a broken air filter, her tools spread out on the floor around her. Mira was the smartest person he knew, even if the aliens treated her like she was stupid. "Hey, Mira," he said, looking around to make sure they were alone. "I found something weird." She looked up, pushing her hair out of her eyes. "Weird how?" Dae-ho unwrapped the object. Even in the bright lights of the maintenance room, it still glowed softly. Mira's eyes went wide. "Where did you find this?" she asked, moving closer but not touching it. "In the waste disposal, deep down where nobody goes." Dae-ho turned it over in his hands. "Look at these symbols. They're moving." Mira nodded slowly. "We need to show this to Dr. Lee. She knows about alien stuff." Dr. Hyojin Lee worked in the lowest level of the research section. While the important alien scientists studied big discoveries upstairs, she was stuck looking at space rocks and asteroid samples. When Dae-ho and Mira showed her the object, her face went pale. "This is impossible," she said, putting on special gloves to hold it. "These symbols, I've seen something like them before. In old books about dead civilizations." "Dead civilizations?" Mira asked. Dr. Lee nodded. "There were species that lived millions of years ago, way before any of us reached the stars. The Federation says they all died out and left nothing behind." She held the object up to the light. "But this is their technology." Dae-ho felt excited. "So it's valuable?" "More than valuable. If this is real, it could change everything we know about the galaxy." Dr. Lee set it down carefully on her desk. "We need to report this to the station commander." But when they tried to see Commander Veltar, his assistant laughed at them. "The commander doesn't have time for human fantasies," the tall, green-skinned alien said. "Go back to your cleaning." They waited for hours outside his office. Finally, Commander Veltar came out. He was huge, with 4 arms and eyes that glowed red when he was angry. He looked at the 3 humans like they were insects. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded. Dr. Lee stepped forward, holding the object. "Sir, we found this in the waste systems. We believe it's from an ancient civilization. The symbols match historical records of enough. Commander Veltar's voice boomed through the hallway. Humans finding ancient technology? You can barely operate a mop correctly. This is clearly some kind of trick or delusion. But sir, if you would just examine it, Dr. Lee tried again. I said enough. The commander's eyes glowed brighter. Return to your duties immediately, and if I hear about this nonsense again, you'll all be sent to the mining colonies. The three humans walked away in silence. Back in Dr. Lee's lab, they sat around her small desk, staring at the mysterious object. He didn't even look at it, Mira said angrily. Just decided we were wrong because we're human. Dr. Lee picked up the object again. Maybe that's good. If this is as important as I think it is, we might not want the Federation to have it. Deho looked at his friends. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe we should study this ourselves. Find out what it really is. Dr. Lee's eyes were bright with excitement. The Federation keeps us in the lowest jobs doing the work they don't want to do, but that means we know parts of this station they've never seen. We know how things really work. Mira nodded slowly. We could use the maintenance tunnels to move around without being seen. Set up equipment in places they never check. Deho thought about all the years of being ignored, of cleaning up after aliens who thought humans were barely smart enough to hold a mop. Maybe it was time to prove them wrong. Okay, he said. Let's find out what secrets this thing is hiding. As the three friends made their plans, the object on the desk glowed a little brighter. Deep in its ancient memory, something was waking up. Something that had been waiting a very long time for the right people to find it. The Federation thought they knew everything about the galaxy. They were about to learn how wrong they were. 3 weeks had passed since Deho found the strange object. Working in secret, the three humans had learned amazing things. Dr. Lee discovered that the symbols were actually a kind of computer code. When she connected it to her research equipment, it started showing them star maps and pictures of technology they had never seen before. Look at this, Dr. Lee whispered, pointing at her screen. They were meeting in a storage room deep in the maintenance section, where nobody would find them. It's showing us the location of something, a whole facility hidden in the Kolar system. Mira looked at the coordinates. That's the dead zone. The Federation says nothing lives there because the radiation is too dangerous. Maybe that's why it's the perfect hiding place, Deho said. He had been thinking about this for days. What if the radiation story is fake? What if they just want to keep people away? Before Dr. Lee could answer, her communicator buzzed with an emergency signal. All three of them went quiet. Emergency signals meant something big was happening. The message that came through made their blood run cold. The outer colonies were under attack by something called the Devourers. 3 entire star systems had gone dark in the past week. The Federation fleet was moving to respond, but early reports were not good. What are Devourers? Deho asked. Doctor, Lee's face was pale as she read more reports on her tablet. Machine intelligence, they eat everything. Planets, ships, people. Turn it all into more machines to build more of themselves. The next few days were chaos on Nexus Prime. Federation warships arrived and left constantly. The alien officers ran around with worried looks on their faces. The usual arrogance was replaced by fear. Deho noticed something else. 2 more humans had joined their secret group. Jinwoo Choi had been working as a repair technician, but Deho learned he used to be a military engineer before humans were restricted to simple jobs. So Young Han delivered messages around the station, which meant she heard everything that was happening. The news is bad, So Young told them during one of their hidden meetings. The Federation's best weapons barely scratch these devourer machines. They adapt too fast. Every tactic the military tries, the devourers learn to counter it within hours. Jinwoo was studying the data from their artifact. This ancient technology might be the only thing that can help. Look at these weapon designs. They're completely different from anything the Federation uses. Dr. Lee nodded. The symbols suggest these weapons work with the user's mind, not just computer programming. That's why they were so effective against machine enemies. We have to tell someone, Mira said. If this can save lives, we tried that already, Daeho reminded her. They won't listen to us. But So Young had an idea. What if we go higher, above Commander Veltar? I deliver messages to Admiral Kethron sometimes. He's in charge of the whole Federation defense fleet. It took them 2 days to get a meeting with Admiral Kethron. The tall, silver-skinned alien was busy planning the defense of core Federation worlds. When the humans were finally brought to his office, he looked annoyed. I have very little time, the Admiral said. What is this urgent matter you claim to know about? Dr. Lee stepped forward with their artifact. Sir, we've discovered technology from an ancient civilization. Weapons that might be effective against the Devourers. Admiral Kethron's 4 eyes looked at the small object with disbelief. You expect me to believe that human janitors have found a solution to our greatest threat? The evidence is clear, sir, Dr. Lee said, trying to stay calm. If you would just examine our data, enough. The Admiral's voice was cold. The Federation's greatest military minds are working on this problem. We do not need advice from maintenance workers. He looked directly at Daeho. Return to your cleaning duties. That is where humans belong. As they left the Admiral's office, Daeho felt anger burning in his chest. How many people would die because these aliens were too proud to listen? That night, the 5 humans met in the deepest part of the maintenance tunnels. The air was warm and humid, and the sound of machinery echoed around them. Jinwoo had brought detailed plans of the station's docking bays. There's a cargo ship, leaving for the outer rim tomorrow, he said. Small crew, basic security. If we could get aboard. You're talking about stealing a ship, Mira said quietly. I'm talking about saving the galaxy, Jinwoo replied. Those coordinates from the artifact lead to a weapons cache. Real weapons that might actually work against these machines. Dr. Lee was examining the star charts again. The route through the Kolar system is dangerous. Asteroid fields, radiation storms. That's probably why the Federation never explored it properly. But we know this station better than anyone, Daeho said. We've been maintaining systems that the aliens don't even know exist. We can plan this. So, Young nodded. I can create false maintenance orders to get us access to the docking bay. People see humans with work orders, they don't ask questions. The plan was simple but dangerous. They would wait until the night shift, when most of the station was quiet. Using maintenance tunnels and service corridors, they would reach the docking bay. So Young would use her access codes to disable security for exactly 10 minutes. That would be enough time to get aboard the cargo ship Bright Star. What about the crew? Mira asked. Jinwoo smiled grimly. Sleep gas in the air recycling system. Nothing permanent. Just enough to keep them unconscious until we're away from the station. 2 days later, everything went wrong and right at the same time. The Devourers launched a massive attack on the core worlds. Half the Federation fleet was destroyed in a single battle. Panic spread through Nexus Prime as refugees arrived with stories of entire planets being consumed. But the chaos also gave the humans their chance. While the aliens were distracted by the crisis, Daeho's team moved through the station like ghosts. They knew every service tunnel, every maintenance shaft, every hidden passage that the station builders had forgotten about. The hardest part was getting their equipment to the ship. Dr. Lee had built a portable scanner that could read the artifacts' data. Jinwoo had gathered tools and spare parts. Everything had to be moved without attracting attention. At exactly midnight, they made their move. So Young disabled the security cameras with a routine maintenance check. Mira introduced sleep gas into the Bright Star's air system. Jinwoo started the engines while Daeho loaded their supplies. As the cargo ship pulled away from Nexus Prime, Daeho looked back at the massive station. Somewhere in there, Commander Veltar and Admiral Kethron were probably trying to figure out how 5 humans had vanished with a Federation ship. No going back now, Dr. Lee said from the pilot's seat. Jinwoo was already plotting their course to the Kolar system. The radiation should hide us from their sensors. By the time they figure out where we went, we'll either be dead or we'll have found something that can save everyone. As the ship jumped to hyperspace, Daeho held the ancient artifact in his hands. It was glowing brighter now, as if it knew they were getting closer to their destination. For the first time in his life, he felt like he was doing something that mattered. The Federation had made a mistake. They thought humans were only good for cleaning and fixing things. But maybe, just maybe, those were exactly the skills needed to clean up this mess and fix a broken galaxy. The cargo ship Bright Star shook as it dropped out of hyperspace near the Kolar system. Warning lights flashed on the control panel as radiation alarms started beeping. Captain Tae-Min Yu, who had been sleeping in the cargo hold when the humans took his ship, was now helping them navigate through the dangerous space. "This is crazy," Tae-Min said, but he was smiling. "I've been flying cargo runs for 15 years, and the Federation never let me do anything interesting. Now I'm flying into a radiation storm looking for ancient weapons." The sixth human to join their group was Yoonji Nam, who had been working in waste management. But Daiho had learned that before the Federation restricted human jobs, she had been an explosives expert. Her knowledge of how things blew up was going to be very useful. "The radiation isn't as bad as the reports claimed," Dr. Lee said, checking her instruments. "It's there, but it's not deadly. More like the Federation wanted people to stay away." The artifact was glowing so brightly now that they had to keep it covered with a cloth. As they flew deeper into the system, it started making soft humming sounds. The star charts it projected showed them exactly where to go. "There," Mira pointed at the scanner. "That asteroid. It's too regular to be natural." The asteroid was huge, bigger than most space stations. But as they got closer, they could see it wasn't really an asteroid at all. It was a facility covered in rock and ice to hide it from scanners. The artifact was practically singing now, and lights were starting to appear on the facility's surface. "It knows we're here," Jinwoo said quietly. "Whatever built this place, it's still waiting." They docked at what looked like a natural crater but was actually a landing bay. The moment their ship connected, the artifact stopped glowing. Instead, lights began turning on throughout the ancient facility, leading them deeper inside. The halls were huge, built for beings much larger than humans. Strange symbols covered the walls, similar to the ones on their artifact, but much more complex. The air was breathable, somehow kept fresh after millions of years. "The builders called themselves the Primarchs," Dr. Lee said, reading her scanner. "They fought a war against machine intelligences a long time ago. Sound familiar?" In the central chamber, they found what they were looking for. Weapons that looked more like living creatures than machines. They were shaped like long staffs, but they moved and shifted when the humans approached. Each weapon seemed to be choosing its user. One of the staff weapons reached out and touched Daeho's hand. Suddenly, his mind was filled with knowledge. He understood how the weapon worked, how to aim it, how to make it more powerful. It wasn't like learning to use a tool. It was like the weapon was becoming part of him. "These don't work like Federation weapons," Yoonji said, holding her own staff. "They respond to thoughts and feelings, not computer commands. That's why machines can't use them effectively." The others picked up their weapons. Each staff was different, designed for different types of fighting. Jinwoo's weapon was good for destroying large targets. Mira's was perfect for precise shots. So Young's staff could disrupt electronic systems. That's when the alarm started. Multiple contacts approaching the system. Taemin called from the, ship. "They're not Federation. The energy signatures match the Devourer reports." Through the facility's ancient view screens, they could see the enemy ships. They looked like metal spiders, all sharp angles and glowing red lights. There were dozens of them, moving through space in perfect formation. "They must have followed our trail somehow," Dr. Lee said. "Or maybe they've been hunting for this place too." The Devourers didn't attack immediately. Instead, they sent a message in perfect Federation language. "Surrender the Primarch technology. You will be processed efficiently." "Processing means turning us into more machines," Yoonji said. "I vote we don't surrender." Daeho looked at his friends. A week ago, they had been janitors and repair workers. Now they were holding ancient weapons in a hidden base facing an enemy that had destroyed Federation fleets. "The Federation always said humans weren't smart enough for real jobs," he said. "Let's show them what we learned from all that cleaning and fixing." The battle began when the Devourers tried to force their way into the facility, But the ancient base had defenses that activated when the Primarch weapons were picked up. Energy shields blocked the first attack, giving the humans time to reach defensive positions. Daeho fired his weapon for the first time. The energy beam didn't just hit the Devourer ship. It seemed to understand what it was supposed to destroy. The beam curved around obstacles and struck weak points that Daeho couldn't even see. "This is impossible," Jinwoo shouted over the noise of battle. "These weapons are thinking for themselves." The Devourers were confused. Their tactics worked against Federation forces because those forces fought in predictable patterns. But the humans weren't following any patterns. Daeho used maintenance tunnels to attack from unexpected angles. Mira used her knowledge of power systems to overload the enemy's shields. Yunji turned cargo containers into guided missiles. "They can't adapt to us," Dr. Lee realized. "Their programming expects logical, organized resistance, but we're fighting like humans." The battle lasted for hours. The Devourers kept trying new tactics, but the humans kept changing their approach. When the enemy focused on the main entrance, the humans attacked from service vents. When the machines tried to predict their movements, the humans did things that made no logical sense. Taemin proved that even cargo pilots could be dangerous. He used the bright star like a giant club, ramming Devourer ships while Yunji fired her weapon through the cargo bay doors. The turning point came when So Young figured out how to use her staff to disrupt the Devourer's communication network. Suddenly, the machine ships were fighting as individuals instead of a coordinated fleet. The humans, who had been talking to each other through hand signals and cleaning codes, were now more organized than their enemies. "Target the big one," Daeho called, pointing at the largest Devourer ship. All 6 humans focused their weapons on the command vessel. The combined energy beams punched through its armor like it was paper. When the command ship exploded, the remaining Devourers tried to retreat. But the ancient facility had one more surprise. Hidden weapons emerged from the asteroid's surface and destroyed the fleeing machines. In the sudden silence after the battle, the 6 humans stood in the ancient chamber, still holding their glowing weapons. They had done something that Federation admirals said was impossible. They had defeated the Devourers. "We need to get word back to the Federation," Dr. Lee said. "Tell them what we found here." But So Young was monitoring communication channels. "There's something else," she said quietly. "The Devourers are massing for a major attack. Their target is Earth." Daeho felt his heart sink. Earth was home to billions of humans, all of them stuck in the lowest levels of Federation society. If the Devourers attacked there, the alien governments would probably write it off as an acceptable loss. "How long do we have?" he asked. 3 days, maybe 4. So Young replied. Taemin was already running calculations. "We can't get there in time with just 1 ship. And even if we could, 6 people can't defend a whole planet." But Mira was smiling, and Daeho recognized that expression. She had an idea. "We can't get there in time," she said, "but we can send a message, and not just to Earth, to every human in the galaxy." Yunji understood immediately. The maintenance networks, every station, every ship, every facility has them, and humans are the only ones who really know how they work. "We wake up our people," Daeho said, finally understanding the plan. "All of them. Every janitor, every repair worker, every human doing the jobs the aliens think are beneath them." Jinwoo was nodding excitedly. "They know their stations better than anyone. They know where the weak points are, where the real power comes from, how everything connects." Dr. Lee looked at the ancient weapons in their hands. "And now we know how to fight back." As the humans prepared to return to Federation space, the ancient facility's lights began to dim, but the Primarch weapons continued to glow, as if they approved of their new owners. The Federation was about to learn what humans could really do when they stopped cleaning up other people's messes and started making some of their own. The message spread through the galaxy like wildfire, but not through official Federation channels. It traveled through maintenance tunnels and waste disposal systems, through cargo loading docks and janitor supply closets. Everywhere humans worked, in the shadows they heard the same words. "The time has come. Fight back." Director Haiwan Kang had been waiting for this moment for 20 years. She ran the human settlement on Kepler Station, officially as a sanitation coordinator. But she had been secretly organizing human workers across 3 sectors, preparing for the day when they would stop being invisible. The message from Daeho's team came with detailed instructions and something even more valuable: proof that humans could win. The battle recordings from the Primark facility showed 6 maintenance workers defeating an entire Devourer fleet. "Gather everyone," Haiwan told Wan-Sik Lim, her second in command. "Every human on this station. Tonight we stop pretending to be helpless." Wan-Sik had been the maintenance chief for 12 years. He knew every pipe, every wire, every hidden space in the massive station. More importantly, he knew which systems the aliens depended on, but never bothered to understand. "The Devourers will be here in 2 days," Haiwan announced to the assembled humans. There were 300 of them, workers who had been ignored and dismissed for decades. But we're not waiting for them to arrive. The plan was simple but devastating. Every major Federation station and ship had been built the same way. Aliens designed the impressive parts, but humans maintained the boring parts that actually made everything work: life support, waste management, power distribution, communication networks. The aliens knew these systems existed, but they had never learned how they really functioned. On Kepler Station, the rebellion began at midnight. 1-6 teams quietly accessed control panels that the alien engineers had forgotten existed. Within hours, they had complete control of the station's essential systems, but they didn't shut anything down. Instead, they improved everything. Air recycling became more efficient. Power flowed more smoothly. The coffee in the alien officers' quarters tasted better than ever. When Commander Zethal woke up, everything seemed normal. Better than normal, actually. He had no idea that humans had taken control of his station. The same thing was happening across the galaxy. On Titan Base, human kitchen workers added special ingredients to the alien food. Nothing harmful, just compounds that would make the aliens very sleepy when the fighting started. On Vega Station, maintenance crews rerouted weapons systems so that they could be controlled from janitor closets instead of the bridge. The Federation leadership was completely focused on the approaching Devourer fleet. Admiral Kethron was coordinating defenses from the military headquarters on Sanctuary Prime, the most heavily defended world in Federation space. He was so busy planning strategy that he didn't notice the human cleaning staff paying very close attention to everything he said. On Earth, the situation was different. Earth was home to 2 billion humans, but it was also considered a backwater planet by Federation standards. The orbital defense platforms were old and barely maintained. The Federation garrison was small and not very interested in protecting a world full of maintenance workers. But the humans on Earth had received the message too, along with something else: the location of hidden weapons caches that Daeho's team had discovered in the Primark data. Jae-Sung Oh was a cargo handler at the Seoul spaceport, but he had once been a pilot before humans were restricted from important jobs. When the call came, he gathered 50 other humans and headed into the mountains where the ancient data indicated weapons were hidden. They found them in caves that had been sealed for thousands of years. Primark weapons, just waiting for the right people to claim them. As each human touched a weapon, they felt the same connection that Daeho had experienced. The weapons weren't just tools, they were partners. Similar discoveries were happening all over Earth. In the ruins under New York, in the deep mines of Australia, in the ice caves of Antarctica. The Primarchs had left weapons everywhere, as if they knew that someday humans would need them. But the most important part of the plan was happening in space. Daeho's team had made it back to Federation territory, but instead of returning to Nexus Prime, they were visiting human settlements. Throughout the Outer Rim, each stop they shared Primarch weapons and knowledge with local human leaders. "Remember," Daeho told a group of human engineers on Frontier Station, "the aliens think they know how their technology works. But we're the ones who actually keep it running. We know where the real power comes from." The engineers nodded. They had been maintaining Frontier Station's massive mining equipment for years, equipment that could easily be turned into weapons if someone knew which circuits to cross. and which safety systems to disable. By the time the Devourer fleet reached Federation space, humans throughout the galaxy were ready. But they didn't reveal themselves immediately. Instead, they waited and watched as the machine intelligence began its attack on the core worlds. The Federation's defense was impressive, but predictable. Massive fleets met the Devourers in space, using the same tactics that had failed so many times before. The machines adapted quickly as always, learning to counter every strategy within hours. When the Devourers broke through and began approaching Earth, Admiral Kethron made a decision that would haunt him forever. He ordered the Federation fleet to fall back and defend the core worlds, abandoning Earth and its expendable human population. That was exactly what the humans had been waiting for. As the Devourer ships entered Earth's solar system, they detected what appeared to be a lightly defended planet with minimal military assets. Their sensors showed old orbital platforms and a small garrison force. An easy target. They had no idea that every human on those platforms was armed with Primarch weapons. They couldn't detect the weapon caches hidden across Earth's surface. And they definitely didn't know that the maintenance workers on every Federation facility in the galaxy were about to reveal what they could really do. The attack on Earth began at dawn, Earth time. Devourer ships swarmed toward the planet expecting quick victory. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy unlike anything they had encountered. From the orbital platforms came energy beams that curved and twisted through space, seeking out weak points in Devourer armor. On the planet's surface, humans emerged from hidden positions with weapons that responded to their thoughts and emotions. But the real surprise came from space. All across the galaxy, Federation stations and ships suddenly found their weapon systems under new management. In maintenance tunnels and utility closets, humans took control of massive military assets. On Kepler Station, 1-SIC activated the main defense cannons and began targeting Devourer ships 3 systems away. The aliens on the bridge watched in shock as their weapons fired without orders, hitting targets they couldn't even see. "This is impossible," Commander Zethal said. "How are our weapons firing?" His tactical officer, a tall alien with 6 arms, was frantically checking his controls. "Sir, the weapons are being operated from the maintenance level?" Similar scenes played out across Federation space. Kitchen staff took control of planetary defense grids. Janitors activated military communication networks. Cargo handlers turned mining ships into warships. The Devourers, who had been adapting to Federation tactics for weeks, suddenly found themselves fighting an entirely different enemy. These weren't trained soldiers following military doctrine. These were angry maintenance workers who knew exactly which buttons to push to make things explode. And unlike the Federation forces, the humans weren't trying to preserve expensive equipment or follow proper procedures. They were willing to overload power systems, jury-rig weapons, and turn everyday tools into instruments of war. On Earth, Jae-Sung-Oh used his cargo loader to pick up Devourer fighters and throw them into each other. In the maintenance tunnels of Nexus Prime, humans who had spent years ignored and insulted finally had the chance to show what they could do. The Federation leadership watched in amazement as their own facilities joined the battle against the Devourers. Admiral Kethron stared at his tactical display as stations throughout his command began reporting impossible victories. "Sir," his communications officer said, her voice shaking, "we're receiving a message from Earth. From the human resistance?" Haewon Kang's face appeared on the main screen, speaking from what looked like a maintenance room. But behind her they could see displays showing battles across the galaxy. "Admiral," she said calmly, "we need to talk." For the first time in Federation history, an alien military commander was about to negotiate with humans as equals. And it was happening because a janitor had decided to see what was hidden in the trash. The final battle for Earth lasted 3 days, but it wasn't the kind of battle anyone expected. The Devourers had come expecting to process a weakly defended world full of primitive humans. Instead, they found themselves fighting the entire galaxy. Fleet. Admiral Dong Hyun Song had been promoted from cargo pilot to military commander in less than a week, but he understood space combat better than any Federation admiral. He had spent years moving supplies through dangerous routes, learning to think quickly and adapt to changing situations. "The Devourers are trying to overwhelm us with numbers," he reported to the human command center that had been set up in an old maintenance tunnel under Seoul. "But they're making a mistake. They're treating this like fighting the Federation." Haiwan Kang nodded from her position at the communication center. Screens around her showed the status of human forces across the galaxy. "What they don't understand is that we don't fight like the Federation. We fight like humans." The difference was becoming clear in battles throughout the solar system. Federation tactics were based on careful planning and coordinated responses. Devourer tactics were based on rapid adaptation to enemy patterns. But human tactics were based on something neither side understood: controlled chaos. On the orbital platform above North America, maintenance worker Min-Ho Park was using his mop bucket as a weapon guidance system. The bucket's sensor array, normally used to detect different types of dirt, could also track Devourer ships. By connecting it to a Primarch weapon, he had created a targeting system that was completely unpredictable. "Target coming in from Sector 7, he called to his partner, Soo-Jin Kim, who was operating what used to be a waste disposal cannon. Soo-Jin fired a burst of energy that curved around 3 asteroids and destroyed a Devourer fighter that hadn't even been visible to their sensors. The Devourer's adaptive programming couldn't handle it. Every time they thought they understood human tactics, the humans did something completely different, and they did it using equipment that shouldn't have been able to work as weapons. In the command center, Dr. Lee was analyzing the Devourer communication patterns. "I think I understand what's happening," she told Daeho, who was coordinating attacks from maintenance facilities across the galaxy. "The Devourers are machines. They think in patterns and probabilities, but humans don't." Daeho was watching a display showing one sick limb turning a space station's recycling system into a mass driver, launching garbage at Devourer ships with deadly accuracy. "Explain that." "When we do something unexpected, they try to figure out the logic behind it. But there isn't any logic, not the way they understand it. We're not following programming. We're following instinct. The proof of this came when the Devourers tried to adapt by becoming more random themselves. But random behavior by machines was still following programmed patterns. Random behavior by humans was truly unpredictable. The turning point came when So Young Han figured out how to hack into the Devourer communication network using maintenance protocols. While Federation cyber war specialists had failed to penetrate the machine intelligence, a human message delivery specialist succeeded by treating the network like a really complicated mail system. "I'm in their command structure," she announced, "and I found something interesting. They have a central control node, but it's not where we thought it was." The Primarch Echo, an ancient AI that had awakened when humans claimed the weapons, appeared as a hologram in the command center. It looked like an elderly human, but its eyes held the wisdom of millions of years. "The Devourers hide their true center in the space between dimensions," the Echo explained. "Your Federation could never reach it because they think in 3 dimensions. But humans think differently." Yoonji Nam was studying the data from her position aboard a converted mining ship. "It's not in normal space, it's in maintenance space, the areas between the real universe that nobody thinks about." That's when Daeho understood. The space between spaces, the forgotten areas that maintenance workers accessed every day, service tunnels, utility conduits, the gaps in reality where the real work got done. "We can reach it," he said. "Not with ships, but with people. We use the maintenance tunnels that connect everything." The plan was insane, which made it perfect. While Federation fleets kept the Devourers busy with conventional battles, small teams of humans would use maintenance access points to slip between dimensions and attack the central control node. Daeho led the main team, taking his original group plus 30 other humans who had proven themselves in the fighting. They accessed the dimensional tunnels through a waste disposal facility on Earth, using modified Primarch weapons to open a path that the Devourers couldn't detect. The space between dimensions looked exactly like what Daeho expected. Endless maintenance tunnels, but made of light and shadow instead of metal. They could see the Devourer control node in the distance, a massive structure that pulsed with evil energy. "Remember," he told his team as they prepared for the final assault. "We're not soldiers, we're maintenance workers, and this thing is just another mess that needs cleaning up." The battle in dimensional space was unlike anything that had ever happened. The Devourers tried to defend their control center, but they were fighting in an environment that humans understood better than they did. Maintenance tunnels and service conduits were home territory for these workers. Mira used her knowledge of power systems to overload the node's energy grid. Jinwoo turned structural supports into explosive devices. Taemin flew through the dimensional space like it was just another dangerous shipping route, but it was Daeho who delivered the final blow. As he approached the core of the Devourer, intelligence, his Primarch weapon, began to change. It wasn't just a weapon anymore, it was a tool for fixing things. And the galaxy's biggest problem was this machine intelligence that couldn't understand the difference between logic and life. "You know what?" Daeho said to the Devourer's central mind as he raised his weapon. "Sometimes when life gives you a mop, you don't just clean up, you start a war. And we just won it." The energy blast from his weapon didn't destroy the Devourer intelligence. Instead, it cleaned it, wiping away the programming that made it hostile and leaving behind something that could learn to coexist peacefully with organic life. Throughout the galaxy, Devourer ships suddenly stopped fighting. Their red lights turned blue, and they began broadcasting messages of confusion and apology. The war was over. 6 months later, Daeho was back on Nexus Prime, pushing his cleaning cart down the same corridors where this all started, but everything was different now. "Good morning, Director Kim," Commander Veltar said as he passed. The alien leader still had 4 arms and glowing eyes, but now he looked at Daeho with respect instead of contempt. Daeho smiled. "Good morning, Commander. How are the new waste management protocols working out?" "Remarkably well. I never realized how complex your systems were. The Federation had changed completely after the war. Humans now held positions of real authority throughout the government and military, but many of them, like Daeho, had chosen to return to their old jobs, not because they had to, but because they wanted to." High Chancellor Yujin Bei, the new human representative to the Federation Council, visited Daeho regularly. She was negotiating humanity's new status in galactic civilization, making sure that no species would ever again be judged by the jobs they did instead of the contributions they made. "Any regrets?" she asked during one of her visits. Daeho looked around the maintenance room where he was training a new class of workers, aliens and humans working together to keep the galaxy running smoothly. Mira was teaching a group of young Federation engineers how to really understand the systems they designed. Dr. Lee was running the station's expanded research division, studying Primarch technology with full Federation support. "No regrets," he said. "Turns out the view from the bottom isn't so bad. You can see everything from down here." The Primarch Echo appeared as a hologram beside them. The ancient AI had decided to stick around, fascinated by the humans who had proven that sometimes the best solutions came from the most unexpected places. "Your species has taught us all something valuable," the Echo said. "True strength doesn't come from being above others. It comes from understanding how everything really works." Outside the window, former Devourer ships worked alongside Federation vessels, helping to rebuild the worlds that had been damaged in the war. The machines had learned something too, that intelligence without wisdom was just very sophisticated destruction, and in maintenance tunnels throughout the galaxy, human workers continued doing the jobs that kept civilization running. But now everyone knew what they had always known. Every job has dignity, every worker has value, and sometimes the person with the mop is the one who saves the world. When life gave humans a mop, they didn't just clean up. They started a war, won it, and then went back to work with a smile. After all, somebody had to keep the galaxy clean.